Roman Black, thanks for your time first of all. Just finished LFL number 2. What were your impressions of the overall event?
Man, it was hot. For one, I don't know if you can see it. You guys are sweating too. It was awesome, man. You know, you guys I know cover a lot of fighting. So you see all kinds of different shows. Show 1, show 2, you don't see this level, you know, of fighting, of combat, and the amateurs, how good they are. But you certainly also don't see this level of show, right? So you got crazy, wonderful fights in the cage, and you got really cool people. Being in Amsterdam, to sit next to a cage and commentate fighting, this is my dream. Like, this is what I was put on earth to do. So it's a gift for me to be able to come here and call these fights.
Yes. The main character, of course, our eyes were on Jason Wilnis, former Glory champion, just made his MMA debut. It was a tough start.
He did.
But eventually he finished it.
Late in the first. Yeah, he finished it late in the first. You know, if he does fight 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 more times as an MMA fighter, he's going to look at this fight and be so grateful those first few minutes he got introduced to that part of the game in real time in a main event. Because you come out of there winning and getting a taste for all of it and seeing how hard it is and how stressful it is. He also you could see immediately, it's like, okay, this isn't some kickboxer who thought he might try MMA. He was prepared in all these areas. He was comfortable with his back against the cage. He was comfortable spinning his man to the cage. And this is what I always love when I see a great kickboxer fight MMA. You're in a clinch. He didn't just sit back and think, okay, I'm wrestling now. He was finding spots for the elbow. And then when he's grappling standing up, it was a turning outside sweep, an old school Muay Thai approach, right? So he was sophisticated enough to not just default to, I better defend a takedown. Instead, he used all the things he was able to do within that context. Like, it was pretty cool.
Jason is also known as like an embodiment of the Dutch kickboxing. You know, gloves high, behind your guard, leg, low kicks, that kind of stuff. Do you think that adapts well to the MMA game in general?
Very interesting, very interesting. You know, if you go back to the root of the evolution of the Dutch kickboxing game, so today, one thing you start to see a lot, at least from a low-level, sort of simple explanation term, is people say, and I had Wonderboy say this to me the other day, Dan Lambert from ATT, they're like, karate is big in fighting now. If you go back, Dutch kickboxing, originally these long-range kickers go over to Thailand and get their legs chewed up and then develop the beautiful game of Dutch kickboxing. So the Dutch game actually is a blend of long, middle, and short-range striking. So in that respect, the Dutch kickboxing game really makes a lot of sense because fighting happens way outside, slightly closer inside, even closer inside, in a clinch, chest to chest, and the Dutch game actually lends itself really well to that.
What are some other Dutch kickboxers you think like, right, that's a good example of someone who could make the transition? We had Regan Eersel walking around here, Yusri Belgari, also already this 2 pro fights.
I mean, you know, now you're literally, and you saw these guys here tonight, and you see them, Eersel's like, yeah, I could do that, you know, and of course, like, man, it's still combat. That's the thing. And it's an interesting time because there's certain universal things we like to say. Oh, the best base for MMA is wrestling. That used to be the truest thing, but it's not necessarily the truest thing now, because if I can move my feet and you can't get a hold of me, we don't wrestle. Because we're not deciding I have to wrestle you. We're deciding, can I stay away from you in such a way that I don't have to wrestle you at all and strike from the outside? So you see these great Dutch kickboxers who now, instead of thinking, how do I defend a triangle, they think, how do I never let this guy grab me and kick the shit out of his legs, right? So it's a beautiful time. This is the gift, this is what I love. You get to travel and see all these different elements. You can see the Dutch kickboxing game playing a big role in the next chapter and the chapter after that.
Yeah. Because MMA is, I like to say, it's a copycat league. It's like everybody sees it like, I'm going to do that. For example, the calf kicks right now. But now you see also calf kicks are getting blocked and a lot of people breaking their legs. What do you think is the next step, the next trend in MMA? What do you think that is?
It's a very good question. So if you asked me this 8 months ago, I'd have said, and I've said it plenty on my own podcast and plenty in other environments. If you asked me 8 months ago what the trend was, I'd say guys are going to break their legs. Because what happens is, so the Dutch the Thais, the Cambodians, the Burmese, you don't see them kicking away at each other's calves. Why? Because over time, they realized that it's so dangerous for the kicker in one small move. So why on earth don't you see Thai fighters doing it, or see Dutch kickboxers doing it, see Burmese boxers doing it? Because it's so dangerous. So you see all these North Americans and all these British and all these Brazilians kicking each other in the legs. They just haven't been around it long enough to know the danger. Now we're starting to know the danger, so you're going to see that go away. So what has to happen? The reason that calf kicks developed is because we started to fight far away. So my longest weapon hit your closest target. So it was a function of how far apart we fought. So what are we going to do? We're going to have to move in closer again. And that, if we can't kick each other's calves from distance because it's too risky, the next logical thing is to fight slightly more into that middle range. So it'll be about that, which will reincorporate the threat of the takedown, and the whole game changes again. But the other thing is, anything that's working, the next thing is seeing that countered. So you also see a lot of spinning back elbows, things like that. 6 months from now, you're going to see a lot of guys knocked out trying spinning attacks because it becomes more familiar in the gyms. Now you try to throw it, and now your training partners are used to it, and it's more familiar, so they can counter it. And this game just goes on forever and ever. And it's why we're never going to be bored of it, because it will keep changing and keep changing and keep changing. It's a living thing.
Meer zien? Ga naar kijk.nl. Kijk opent je ogen.